Originally, when I came to Broken Hill, I mainly just drew in sketchbooks. And then I was really, really lucky. I had a head teacher who gave me a pastel kit. And so I worked in pastels for about 10 years. But being in Broken Hill again, transporting pastels with the sheet of glass and trying to go out bush and paint, also do images, meant that the pastels were incredibly prone to damage and smudging, trying to get them back. So I wanted to learn how to paint. I learned how to paint with acrylics. And that journey basically started from about 1980 to this image in 84. So by the time I got to 84, I'd gotten comfortable with using the acrylics. And so this was specifically a painting done to experiment with 2 or 3 of the threads in my art making. Somebody who lived across the street from us here had his pilot's license. He rarely used it, but to keep it current, I would pay for the plane and the fuel to hire, and he would fly me around over my chosen destinations. And so I would take, and this is the days of old analog film, so I'd take like 6 rolls of 36 exposures, and I'd take all these things. When you fly over the bush here locally, there's 2 things that spring to mind instantly. The first one is Fred Williams's artwork, the aerial view, modernist Australian painter, but also it's basically empty. And when you look down, you notice the way that the abstract pattern of the landscape very much follows the flow of water. I took the idea that in their own, some of the creek beds weren't enough to do a full image on it. So I thought I'd put a whole bunch of them on this pattern background, where I actually experimented with the sort of things that Fred Williams did. He would mix varnish and terps into his oil paints, and he would flow them across the surface and get these beautiful patinas and veneers. And then he'd put crunchy bits on top of them straight out of the tube, which represented the actual bushes on the landscape. The problem with the acrylics is they don't do the crunchy bit real well. So I'm really in awe of people like Rick Ball's work, where he can do that with the oils, but the acrylics just dry out flat. But I still did the idea where I mixed the acrylics with their equivalent of a PVA varnish and lots of water, and I poured it all over the surface and let it run in various ways to create both the patterning on the background and also that sort of sense of flow of water across the landscape. And then I used masking tape, and I masked off each of the boxes and added my favorite watercourse images. How did the work end up in the collection? It revolves around a previous gallery director by the name of Gary Corbett. And in 1994, Gary, with his concern for the local artists, actually wanted the artists to help promote Broken Hill, and was willing and thought that it morally obliged the gallery to pay. So we got paid a salary to paint out at the sculpture site for the 2 weeks of the Easter holiday. And so what I did is I went out and I camped on the spot. Everybody else came out and missed that wonderful morning light and got frustrated and went home before the wonderful evening light. So what I would do is I'd do multiple views of things like the pinnacles or the town. That's how I'd start first thing in the morning on a really large piece of art paper, and I'd do a long rectangular slice of whichever, and then do an evening view and take the middle of the day off. So when the project was over, after camping out there, I had such a good time that I stayed 1 extra night past the day that I was being paid. And every morning when I got up and boiled my billy, because I had my jaffle iron, my camp oven, my billy, my swag, sleeping on the back of my ute up there, my view was to the northwest off the top of the hill there towards the Stevens Creek Reservoir. And there would always be this beautiful sort of limey, bluey green light from that direction that was reflected on the surface of the reservoir water. And I just wanted to bash this thing onto a really large piece of paper on that final morning before I packed up and went into town. Now, part of the contract is we gave the gallery a work from that. So the work I gave them was a very finished one that had the morning view of town, the afternoon view of town, and the night lights across it. That's in the gallery collection. That's the piece that went in. But Gary wanted that last one because of the dexterity, the quickness, the spontaneity of it, and the way it just caught that. And I just couldn't bring myself to let him have it, because as far as I was concerned, it was the day after I was paid. I was now on my own time. And I did it for myself because that was my morning view. So I was reluctant to give him that. So kind of the negotiated one is I really like this one that we're talking about today. And that was donated in its place because I felt that it represented the best of my work.